I'm broken. I'm a failure. Business has gone bust. I've had to sack 10 people. I'm a rubbish husband. I'm chubby. I'm broke. So broke. I failed my family. I failed myself. I'm useless. Just full of so much rage and despair. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't even deserve to be here. God, this sounds like the shopping list of a right miserable git. And I can tell you, back then, I was not invited to many parties at all. 11 years ago, this was me. This picture was taken of me at Christmas 2010. The day after, I just moved back home to my parents' house. I was 23 stone, depressed. And at that time, whilst I'm smiling on the outside, I mean, it is Christmas, so I guess I did make it to one party at least. If you look at those eyes and look at that body language, you can see the fear on the inside. 35 years old, moving back to my teenage bedroom, complete with Bon Jovi CDs and Star Wars posters. Definitely not the place I thought I was going to be in my 20s, but far better than the place I almost ended up. Wrapped around a tree on a country road. Driving back to the house that used to be my home. You see, back in those days, I'd been working really long hours, putting the work in, trying to solve things, trying to get things right. And if I'm honest, I was avoiding going back to that awkward silence, to the stuff that we weren't saying to each other, to that house where my wife and I lived separate rooms and separate lives. It's very misty, that road, very dark. But it was a bit like that, the road that I was on. It was a murky October night, just before that Christmas. And I was driving back on a country road like this, going back to that house where I didn't feel I belonged anymore. And I decided there and then, that was it. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to just get rid of this problem right here, right now. So I took my seatbelt off, put my foot down on the accelerator. I decided when I was looking at that road, which of those trees I was going to ram my car into, just a couple of feet from the side of the road. Oblivion. Momentary pain, and then silence. I know my luck at the time, the airbags would have worked. For me, it was just, in that split moment, my mind went forward to my funeral, to the faces of my family, my mum, my dad, my brother, my friends, and their despair at my passing. I then questioning why. Why hadn't they spotted anything was wrong? Why hadn't I asked for help? Why hadn't I been strong enough to reach out and ask for support? And I drove back to the house. And then within a couple of days, I got help. And so the first thing I focused on, with, to be honest, so much going wrong in my life, was my health. Being 23 stone, I thought I'll start there. And as I changed my body and I changed my strength inside, it started to change my mindset. Within 9 months, I'd lost 6.5 stone in weight. 32 kilos. Try and imagine 32 bags of sugar here. That's how much I lost from around my body. Thank you. And I started setting goals for my fitness. I was doing 5K races, 10K races. In 2014, I even did a triathlon. It took me nearly 3 hours to cross that line. And I knew I was near the back of the finishing line because by the time I got to the water stations, they'd already packed up and gone. And for the last 2 kilometers, I had the St. John's ambulance bikes with me just to make sure that I crossed the line. But I crossed the line. I got my medal. I'd done it. I'd never do it again. But not only did I do it for me, I'd also done it to raise money for Parkinson's UK. That was a charity that for me and my family was becoming very pertinent in our lives. See, a few years before this had happened, my dad had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And he was in his mid-50s, and at that time, we wouldn't see much impact from it. So carry on regardless, do your job, get everything done, it'll all be okay. But as time rolled on, it definitely started to have that impact. It started to steal his confidence, his job, his mobility, his speech, and ultimately, just the age of 63, his life. It was his time to go. But he never made it to my second wedding that summer. By the time I got married again, he was just too poorly. But I did get to tell him that he would have been a granddad. And even in those last days, just a week or so before he died, I saw that recognition and pride in his eyes. You see, Sophie and I met. She's up there. Hello. We were introduced to a friend of ours called Caitlin, who thought we'd make quite good partnership. And I've got to say, several years later, she was pretty right. I not only did become a partner to Sophie, I also became a stepdad to Fred, somebody I'm immensely proud of. Our first Megan staged a speedy entrance into the world. That raw emotion of seeing your child brought into the world, rivaled only by the raw emotion of losing my dad. We didn't stop there, of course. We had another one. Beatrice, a couple of years ago, came into the world. This time, another planned home birth, smiling and ready to change lives as well. These two events I will never, ever forget. Both, again, attached to home. I recognize now that as I look back at those events in my lives, I hadn't lost the way. I just lost the ability to help me find the way. I was a son and a brother. I was a dad and a stepdad. I was fixable. I was evolving. I was a student and a teacher. I was moving forward. I was a shining light. I was enough. I was worthy. I was a success. I am a success. Thank you.